Plaintiff Stephen Heimberger met the defendant when they lived in a makeshift frat house. Stephen claims after a year of partying and noise violations, he and the defendant decided to move out on their own. And he's suing because he claims while walking the defendant's dog, the dog attacked another dog, and Stephen was sued by the injured dog's owner. Defendant Brett Rice says when he first lived with Stephen, they were 2 of 7 roommates, and they were the only 2 who grew out of all the partying. Brett does not believe he's responsible for the injured animal because he was not there when the attack took place.
Start with you.
Well, Brett and I know each other from ways back. We kind of were recruited to live in a sort of makeshift frat house by kind of some mutual friends back in the day. Very similar to the movie Old School. I don't know if you've seen that, but basically exactly like that. So just about 8 guys lived in a house, just kind of doing the college thing, you know, drinking, parties, girls, you know, we had a great time.
Did you all graduate?
I was in school at the time. Brett actually was not attending school. He was just
Did you graduate?
Yes, sir.
Good. Go ahead.
We were in this house for 1 year, and a lot of crazy times over the span of the year. A lot of noise violations from the neighbors.
Typical frat house.
It was a frat house. Very, very true. So the year ended, and Brett and I decided that we should kind of move on as roommates and get an apartment together. Lived in that apartment for a year, and after that I went out and purchased a house.
Did you all keep partying at the apartment?
We did. I mean, a lot of nights I'd love to tell you about, but probably don't even remember clearly.
Go ahead.
So
you bought your own house.
That's correct, sir.
And where did he go?
He moved in with me. So basically, okay. I became landlord and a friend.
Before we get to the specifics, let me allow him to give some background.
Yeah. Well, just for the record, we were not frat guys. We just lived in a house near campus. So we became good friends after that, you know, just kind of with everything we pulled off at that house. I mean, we had the basketball team there, the football team, you know, and we just threw some great parties.
The college players.
Yeah. Cops kicked in our door because we were making too much noise just to mess with us. And so kind of through that experience, you know, we became good friends, and we also had a lot in common as far as, I mean, we both loved to play golf, we both snowboard. I mean, I wore my Seahawks jersey into Heinz Field with this guy. I mean, we were as close as friends could be, you know.
What does that mean?
And
I know they're football teams, but Seahawks going in the Heinz Field.
In the Steelers stadium.
I know. But that means you would have been jumped on, you would have been assaulted?
We were, yeah.
So you risk his life. That's your point.
We had each other's back.
The viewers need to understand that it's so much football hostility that if you wear a jersey in somebody else's stadium, you're subject to have a problem, right? That's what.
Like the time you went to Ohio State.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking about. Same thing happened to me. My son had nerve, Greg. He was a Michigan student. He had nerve to wear a Michigan jersey when we went to Ohio State to see the Michigan-Ohio State game, and I'm the one that paid the consequences. Some guy throws a full can of beer, not open, a full can of beer at me, just hit my face. Another one gets in front of my face. Get the out of here. We're going to I said, Greg, take that jersey off. So I understand now.
Yeah. We were lucky enough to only get verbal abuse that day, but.
Okay. All right, so tell me about the $4,000 you're suing for.
Maybe 6-9 months after moving in, he inquired about getting a dog. Seemed like a good idea, you know, finally own a home, let's bring a dog in. Dog was kind of, had a poor attitude, if you will. Kind of a jerk of a dog, but so
the dog's bad attitude, how did that manifest itself?
Just sort of, you know, generally you call a dog, especially if you live with the dog, the dog will come. This dog would kind of give you a look.
Yours would run.
Roll his eyes and kind of turn his head back over, kind of one of those sorts of things.
Okay.
Shortly after he got a dog, I decided to get a dog. So we have 2 dogs now. Both pit bulls. It was kind of an unspoken agreement between Brett and I that if you were going somewhere and you were taking the dog to a park or for a walk or whatever, you'd take the other dog, you know, just mean to leave one dog behind.
It was also very one-sided. I was doing 90% of the dog walking. For the record.
Right, go ahead.
I don't necessarily disagree. One day, my girlfriend and I, this was May 2010, decided to take the dogs to a local park I was walking Brett's dog on leash, and she was walking my dog on leash. And just walking along, and all of a sudden, completely unprovoked, Brett's dog bit another dog walking by in the opposite direction. Not just bit the dog, but basically clinched on and didn't release.
That's what pit bulls do.
So my dog was there. My dog was not involved at all.
No provocation? Was your dog provoked?
I haven't heard. Steve says
Somebody
he wasn't.
should've
Steve says
told
he
you.
wasn't provoked.
Really? And some pit bulls are like that.
When the two dogs got together, they kind of became punks together, almost like a pack mentality or something.
All right, so 4,000. Let's get to that.
The owner of the dog that was bit moved forward with legal action towards myself and Brett equally. They were able to get a judgment passed through, basically without either of our knowledge.
How much?
The judgment, I believe, was for $13,000.
Well, if I can back up, just before that, they had sent us a letter saying they wanted $4,000, and it was so much money to both of us at the time. We just both didn't think like.
Okay, but they received a judgment for 13.
Correct. They received a judgment which was later overturned.
Was it retried?
It was completely vacated. At that point, there were continuing discussions.
So there's no one liable for anything if it was vacated.
Well, the owner of the other dog didn't see it that way because they
If
continued.
the judgment was vacated, you weren't required to pay the plaintiff
Correct.
anything.
That is correct.
So did you pay something?
Not at that time. So after,
Later you did? That's what we're talking about, sir. How did you become liable later if the judgment was vacated?
I settled with the party for $8,000 in order.
Because they were going to appeal?
Correct.
You settled and he's responsible for half. That's why you want 4,000?
Yes.
And did he agree? Obviously,
He
because
did
it's
agree.
a breach of contract.
I have evidence here, email conversation
All
between
right.
the two of us.
Let's see it. Sir, did you agree to pay a half of the judgment?
In so many words I did in that email, obviously $4,000 is a lot of money.
Why shouldn't you have to pay now?
Well, I feel like since I wasn't there, I wasn't really responsible.
Then why did you agree to it in the first place?
Because I didn't understand, first of all, if paying that $4,000 cleared me from that judgment. And
You should get a release.
Okay, and see, I mean, I really just said I can't write a check for that amount of money without like a judge ordering me to or something. Like I just suggested to Steve that we go to small claims court.
No, the settlement should have said after you pay the $4,000, you'll be released from liability, the two of you.
But it was a one-sided release for him.
It didn't have your name in there?
It didn't have my
Who has
name
the
in
release?
it.
Brett very much took no action in all of
Who
this.
has the release?
I have the release
wouldn't
right
pay either if the proposed judgment doesn't include a release saying that you don't have to pay. This release does not apply to any of the claims against Brett Rice. He doesn't get a release. This still has
As
him on
far
the
as
hook.
his thing went, though,
Even if he pays, he's still on the hook. If he gives you $4,000, they can come back at him and say, "We didn't give you a release. What are you talking about? Give up. We don't know about you giving him $4,000. We want $4,000 directly given to us."
At that point in time, he can come back at me for that money if that's the case. But considering this was 3
Yeah,
years
but instead
ago,
of coming back at you, he just don't pay you until you come with a release in his name. Why couldn't you get a release for him?
because he was not taking any action on this. He refused to respond to anything. It was all my money that went to attorneys, which I'm not able to recuperate.
You told them not to give him a release. I'm going to grant you your $4,000 contingent upon him obtaining a release. When he gets a release, then you get your $4,000. Judgment for the plaintiff.
The guy whose dog, if it had just came at us for his medical bills, the money he actually paid at the start, we would have just settled and it would have been over with. And I wish in hindsight we could have just settled for the $4,000 and got a release. We could have each paid $2,000 apiece and been done with it.
I mean, basically it is what it is because Brett was lazy. Like I said, he didn't want to follow up. He didn't want to take care of his portion of it. He didn't want to hire an attorney. He didn't want to do any of that. So because I was the responsible one who did that, I'm now in a position where I'm getting screwed.